But it's a lot of free money out here. Don't let it fool you for 1 second. It's a ton of free money out here, and you just gotta finesse a little bit. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Ignorant Money Club. So today I'm going to be talking to you about how I made over $60,000 while I was a student in college. And guess what? I didn't even have a job while I was a student. Some people may think I'm lying or over exaggerating, but when you finish this video, swipe and you'll have the proof. So there's a big misconception that if you go to college, then you pretty much have to pay everything out of pocket or get student loans or something like that. And that is not true. You know, you don't have to live the broke college life and eat ramen every night or anything like that. And I'm not, you know, anyone that has rich parents, and I didn't come from, you know, a slew of wealth where my parents paid for my college. It was really just a lot of hard work and determination, and just thinking of college more so as a business versus something more so as a business than an expense. So this is pretty much how I use college to be able to generate wealth for myself. When I first got to college, I had no clue what a student refund was. I thought it was, you know, I thought the money that wasn't used for your tuition, I thought the school just kept that or something like that. But when my first semester at Savannah State University, I pretty much got money back, and it was like $600. And I'm like, oh wow, like, you know, I was kind of excited. I was like, I didn't know that I would get money back for, you know, whatever money that wasn't used. I didn't know that I would get it back to my account in the form of a refund. So at that point, you know, I just saw opportunity. And when I saw that opportunity, I was like, okay, well, if they giving me $618 back, why not try to, you know, amplify the amount of money I get back, and I can potentially live off of that. So I was at Savannah State University. I was, you know, still living at home, commuting back and forth every day. So one of the biggest expenses in college, in my opinion, is where you live at, you know what I'm saying? So I didn't have that expense. So I'm like, okay, let me try to figure out how I can get more money, you know, and try to increase this refund. So every single semester that I was at Savannah State, my refund check grew and grew and grew. And I did this by the way of applying for scholarships and keeping my grades strong. And some people may say, oh, I'm not smart. Well, guess what? You have to put effort in something. So, you know, nothing just comes to anyone. But if you have strong grades, which anybody can work hard to make good grades, then you can take advantage of this opportunity. So I know that I had over a 3.0, and just by being able to keep over a 3.0, all I did was do some research into a lot of different scholarships and things like that. In-house scholarships. I was just hustling, just doing all types of research. So one thing that I want to let college students know right now is, and people who may be thinking about going back to college, when you are at well, Savannah State is a HBCU, so obviously I wasn't quote unquote considered a minority. So you have to do something to separate yourself from the masses in order to obtain scholarships. So I think I had like a 3.7 GPA, and that enabled me to separate myself from every other student at Savannah State University. So over the course of, I think I was there for like five or six semesters before I transferred, I applied for literally everything that I could possibly apply for, and before you knew it, I was getting $8,000 refund checks. And this was not in the form of any loans, or, you know, I know a lot of people go out there and take their loans and, you know, they get a big refund check, but it's money that they have to pay back to the government. So all of this is straight cash flow, like no loans or no money that I have ever had to pay back to anyone. So that was where I kind of first gained the, knowledge of like, okay, you get the scholarships, get more and more scholarships, and then whatever money you aren't using for school, you pretty much get back in the form of a refund check. So things kind of changed when I was getting ready to transfer to Georgia Tech. I was no longer, the smartest student at the school. Trust me, by far. Like, I didn't even get into, or I could not even get into Georgia Tech when, I first got out of high school because my ACT scores weren't high enough. So that's just something to, add to the fact that anybody can go out here and work hard. It was just a hard work ethic that got me the scholarships and the good grades. So don't think that, I'm just like this whiz, because when I got to Georgia Tech, I found out that, hey, guess what? You're no longer that 3.7 student anymore. And I was just a number. So when I got to Georgia Tech, I had to come up with a different strategy on how I would maintain getting these huge refunds. And what I did before I got to Georgia Tech is I did a lot of networking. I was networking with people that were in minority, or that managed and ran the minority programs around the school. So once I got to Georgia Tech, being that it's a PWI, guess what? Now I'm a minority. So I used the fact that I was a minority to my advantage to be able to gain scholarships. And so after applying for tons of scholarships at Georgia Tech, and especially scholarships that focus on, diversity and getting minorities into STEM and things like that, I was able to get a lot of other scholarships. So I can't really say it's a method to the madness or it's a strategy. It's just like keeping your grade strong and using your advantage. Like, I was in the military too, so I knew that any scholarship that was like military based or a minority, like, I was bound to get it because I tried to keep my grades as strong as possible. But I knew that those two were my strong suits, being that I had that military background and that I was a minority. So like I said, when it comes to these scholarships, you really have to figure out what is your strong suit and how can you differentiate yourself from every other student in the school. And I promise you, if you find the right scholarship, you will be able to get it. Now, when I transferred to Georgia Tech, I had no clue on like how I would pay for my education or anything like that. And I moved from the, being at mama and daddy house to pretty much having to pay for rent in Atlanta, downtown Atlanta. So this was something that I was kind of concerned about. I did have a little bit of savings and stuff like that, but still I did not know how I was going to survive for 2 to 3 years in Atlanta without, having any money from refunds like I had back when I was at Savannah State University. But like I said, just maintaining my grades and getting involved with those programs, I was able to get so many different scholarships. And like I said, this was extremely helpful because it basically put me in a position where I didn't have to work at all. So this is something that I think all college students, or all students that are looking to go to college, or all people that are looking to go to college one day, they should really pay attention to that. And don't see school as something like I have to take out loans, because you don't have to take out a single penny. That's up to you. If you choose to pay for school out of your pocket, that's up to you, because Uncle Sam and the government, they have a lot of money that they want to give you in regards that you will have to pay back years to come. But it's a lot of free money out here. Don't let it fool you for 1 second. It's a ton of free money out here, and you just got to finesse a little bit. You can't do everything in a straight path. I'm not saying do anything wrong or illegal, but you got to go against the grain and figure out different ways to be able to accomplish or achieve the same results, essentially. So I also want to tell you about one other thing that kind of funded me while I was in college and I didn't have a job at all. If anybody ever heard of like academic research, it's extremely important for minorities in general to get exposed to it, because as far as like scientists and engineers and mathematicians, we don't really have the numbers in those spaces. And guess what? They'll pay Black people a lot of money to just study in those spaces, learn stuff in those spaces. I'm not saying that you got to grow up and be a scientist or an engineer, but just to learn some of those skills and try out some of those skills while you're in college, it can be a huge asset. So going back to Savannah State, kind of backtracking, one day I was sitting in class and a professor, his name was Dr. Adiamo, he came in class and he just wrote money on the board, and then he wrote $1,200. And so this was a perk of being, you know, like at a HBCU, because the professors, you know, they see that you're Black students, they look out, you know what I'm saying? It's like you kind of got family, and that's pretty much how that relationship was. So, you know, me always being inquisitive, I see money, I see, you know, like research and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, let me check this out. So I go sign up for the program. It was called PSL SAMP, and that's a minority research program where you can pretty much do research, academic research in any topic that you want to most of the time. So I signed up for it, and I realized that they were going to pay me $750 per semester in order to do research under a professor. And literally you can kind of choose what project you want or create your own project under the professor. And if anybody didn't know about research, scientists receive money and grants and research. Anybody ever heard of NSF, NIH, or anything like that? People receive tons of money every year for, guess what? Just trying to solve things and just trying to find solutions to problems. Think about coronavirus right now. There are a ton of companies and institutions that are receiving boo-hoo money just for trying to find the cure to corona. So that was another thing that I picked up on, and I didn't even realize how that research would lead me into a space where I was able to present it later on once I, you know, kind of completed it a little and achieved some results. So before I knew it, I was applying for travel scholarships to go all across the United States. I'm talking about I was from anywhere from Texas to Cali, DC, Virginia. I was all over the United States traveling for free. To be honest, I have never paid for a plane ticket in my life until I was age 24, but I had been all over pretty much the US, and I traveled, you know, overseas, and had never paid for a plane ticket. So anybody who is watching this right now, if you haven't quite finished college, or if you're thinking about going to get a graduate degree, PhD level, something like that, look into academic research in the STEM field. I can only speak what I know. There are probably a ton more opportunities out there, but like I said, this is what worked for me. So like I said, if you don't believe me, then swipe and you can fact check every last penny that I received in the refund if you don't believe me. So I appreciate everybody for tuning in. If you stayed to the end of the video, and you all have a great day. Thanks.